Kingdom Life Study Bible. Genesis chapter 2. The garden, humanity, and the purpose of relationship. Genesis 1 gives us the big picture of creation. Genesis 2 brings the camera closer. It focuses on humanity, the Garden of Eden, work, relationship responsibility, and the relationship between the man and woman. Genesis 1 answers, why was humanity created? Genesis 2 begins showing us, how was humanity designed to live? Genesis 2, 1-3. Creation completed. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their vast array. God finished his work of creation. On the seventh day, God ceased from his creative work and blessed the seventh day. What does rest mean? The Hebrew idea of rest is Shabbat, meaning to cease, stop, or discontinue from labor. God was not tired or exhausted. His rest meant that the work of creation had reached completion. Kingdom life principle. Rest is not always the result of exhaustion. Sometimes rest is the result of completion. There is a time to work and a time to stop and recognize what God has accomplished. Genesis 2, 4-6. Before the garden was cultivated. Genesis now gives us another perspective on creation. The earth did not yet have the cultivated vegetation that would grow from human cultivation because God had not yet caused rain to fall upon the earth and there was no human being to work the ground. A mist or moisture came up from the earth and watered the ground. This introduces an important relationship. God provides, but humanity is given responsibility to cultivate. Genesis 2:7. God forms humanity. Then God formed the man from the dust of the ground. God breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. This is one of the most intimate moments in creation. Humanity comes from the ground, but life comes from God. Living being. The Hebrew word is nephesh, referring to a living, breathing creature. The man did not merely receive a soul, as if God placed another object inside him. He became a living being when God gave him the breath of life. Kingdom life principle. Your physical existence comes from the earth, but your life ultimately comes from God. You are more than material. You were designed for relationship with your Creator. Genesis 2, 8-9, the Garden of Eden. God planted a garden in Eden in the east and placed the man there. The garden contained trees that were beautiful, good for food, pleasant to look at. Among them were the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The garden was both beautiful and productive. God was not merely interested in humanity surviving. He created an environment containing beauty, nourishment, abundance, and purpose. Kingdom life principle. God's original design included both provision and beauty. Genesis 2, 10-14. The river of Eden. A river flowed from Eden to water the garden. From there it divided into 4 rivers. Genesis identifies them as Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, Euphrates. The description emphasizes that Eden was a place of abundant provision. Water flowed outward from the garden. This gives us an interesting kingdom picture. What God provides within can become a source that flows outward. Genesis 2:15. Humanity's first assignment. God placed the man in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. This is extremely important. Work existed before the fall. Work was not originally a curse. Work was part of God's design for humanity. Work. The Hebrew word abad can mean to work, serve, cultivate, or labor. Take care. The Hebrew word shamar means to guard, watch over, keep, or protect. So Adam's assignment involved both cultivating and protecting. Kingdom life principle. Kingdom responsibility involves both development and protection. God gives us things to develop. He also gives us things to protect. Genesis 2:6-17. Freedom with one boundary. God gave the man permission to eat from every tree in the garden except one, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. God warned him that eating from it would result in death. Notice the pattern. God first gives abundance, then he establishes a boundary. The command was not, you can have nothing. It was, you may freely eat from everything except this one. Kingdom life principle. God's boundaries are not designed to destroy freedom. They are designed to protect life. True freedom is not doing everything we want. True freedom includes the ability to live within the boundaries of God's wisdom. Genesis 2:18. Something was not good. For the first time in Genesis 1-2, God says something is not good. God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. This does not mean Adam was incomplete as a person. It means God's design for humanity was not intended to be lived in isolation. God created humanity for relationship. Kingdom life principle isolation was never God's original design for human life. We need God, family, community, partnership, fellowship, purpose. Genesis 2:18, helper. God said he would make a helper corresponding to the man. The Hebrew expression is ezer kenegdo. What does helper mean? The word ezer does not mean an inferior assistant or servant. It is often used in scripture for someone who provides strength, support, or assistance. The phrase kenegdo carries the idea of someone corresponding to him, suitable for him, or standing opposite him as his counterpart. The woman was not created beneath the man. She was created as his corresponding partner. Kingdom life principle. God designed partnership is not about superiority and inferiority. It is about complementary purpose. Genesis 2:19-20, naming the animals. God brought the animals to the man to see what he would call them. The man gave names to the animals. Naming demonstrated responsibility and authority, but something became obvious. No corresponding partner was found for the man. This prepared the way for God's next creative act. Genesis 2, verse 21-22. The woman is formed. God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep. God took from the man and formed the woman. Then God brought her to the man. The Hebrew word traditionally translated rib is selah. It can refer to a side or side portion. For the Kingdom Life translation, we can express the thought as God took from the man's side and formed the woman. The picture is powerful. The woman was not taken from his head to rule over him. She was not taken from his feet to be trampled beneath him. She was taken from his side, beside him. Genesis 2:23. This is now bone of my bones. When the man saw the woman, he declared, this one is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This is the first recorded human response to another human being. He recognizes her as corresponding to him. He does not see her as an object. He recognizes shared humanity. Kingdom relationships begin with recognizing the God-given dignity of another person. Genesis 2:24, leaving and becoming one. Genesis gives the foundation for marriage. A man leaves his father and mother, joins himself to his wife, and they become one flesh. What does one flesh mean? It describes a profound union involving physical intimacy, emotional attachment, family, commitment, shared life, covenant relationship. Marriage was designed to create a new family unit. The relationship is no longer simply two independent lives. They become united in purpose and life. Genesis 2:25, no shame. The man and woman were both naked, but they were not ashamed. There was no fear, no hiding, no manipulation, no exploitation, no embarrassment, no distrust. There was openness and innocence. This is a picture of humanity before rebellion entered the world. Kingdom life principle. God's original design was relationship without fear, manipulation, or shame. Kingdom life study. The major themes of Genesis 2, no 1. God creates humanity personally. Genesis 1 shows humanity being created in God's image. Genesis 2 shows God forming the man from the ground and breathing life into him. The creator is personal. Number 2, work is part of God's original design. Adam worked the garden before humanity's rebellion. Therefore, work is not the curse. The curse later affected the experience of work, but purposeful labor itself existed before sin entered the world. Number 3, God gives responsibility. Adam was told to cultivate and protect. Kingdom authority always comes with responsibility. Authority without responsibility becomes abuse. Number 4, God gives freedom with boundaries. Adam had tremendous freedom, but freedom existed within God's instruction. Kingdom principle. Freedom without wisdom becomes destruction. God's boundaries protected the purpose he created. Number 5, God designed humanity for relationship. God himself declared, it is not good for the man to be alone. Human beings were designed for connection. Or 6, woman and man share God's image. Genesis 1 already established that both male and female were created in God's image. Genesis 2 then shows their complementary relationship. The woman is not an afterthought. She is God's intentional answer to the man's need for corresponding partnership. 7, marriage is designed as covenant partnership. Genesis 2 establishes the pattern. Leave, join, become one. New Fennip is formed. Kingdom Life Declaration. Genesis 2. God created me intentionally. My life comes from God. My work has purpose. I am called to cultivate what God places in my hands. I am called to protect what God entrusts to me. I can enjoy God's provision while respecting his boundaries. I was not created for destructive isolation. God designed me for relationship and meaningful partnership. Every person carries God given dignity. God's design for relationships includes responsibility, commitment, trust, and unity. I will seek to cultivate what God gives me, protect what he entrusts to me, and live according to his purpose. Genesis 2, Kingdom Life. Key Genesis 1 tells us, you were created by God and for God's purpose. Genesis 2 begins showing us how that purpose operates. Receive life from God, walk with God, cultivate what God gives you, protect what he entrusts to you, respect his boundaries, build healthy relationships, live in partnership, fulfill your purpose. Kingdom life key, open quote, God did not create humanity merely to live. He created humanity to cultivate, protect, relate, reproduce, and represent his purposes on the earth, close quote.